Good morning. Right, does it look familiar? If you're hanging out with us over on Guerilla Sports Daily, we are back. I literally just cut a show short because there is so much happening in the NHL right now. I can't believe it. This is... Why isn't this... There we go. Video wasn't pulling up. So I want to start by talking about the fact that, I guess tampering rules are done. We don't care about that anymore. Deals have been coming in all morning. And these guys here are making fun of me because I don't even have the words right now, you guys. The Nashville Predators, the Washington Capitals, Chicago Blackhawks, Boston Bruins, all gearing up heavy on free agents. These are three teams right there that I think underachieved this past season and are looking to go out and spend some money. You get a $4 million bump in the cap this year to take it to $88 million. And so far, teams are making good use. The signings are coming in so fast and furious, guys, that it's hard. It's genuinely hard to even keep up with them. All right, I'm literally going to take you guys through what has happened as far as what is officially in the system. Since 10 a.m., what's officially been registered with the league as far as free agent signings. Nashville Predators have signed Jonathan Marchessault, 5 years, $27.5 million for an AAV of 5.5. Chicago Blackhawks signed Teuvo Teravainen, 3 years, $16.2. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Stanley Cup champion, 4 years, $14 million. This one just came in. Sean Monahan, 5 years, $5.5 to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Anthony Stolarz, 2 years, $5 million to the Toronto Maple Leafs. They get their backup. Anthony Mantha, a 1 year deal, $3.5 to the Calgary Flames as they are looking to be retooling on the fly. The Whopper, Steven Stamkos, 4 years, $32 million with the Nashville Predators. Not only does he make it to free agency, he gets a deal done first thing in the morning. There were a few teams maybe interested in his services. The Anaheim Ducks were being floated out there as a potential landing spot, as well as the Detroit Red Wings. He lands in the Central Division with the Nashville Predators at a nice $8 million a year for the next 4 years. Like I said, I literally had to cut another show short because I was just getting signing, trade. Jacob Chychrun on the move to the Washington Capitals. They were just all coming in. I eventually looked in the control room to Jay and I said, just cut it. Let's just end this and let's get over to the NHL show because we were doing Guerilla Sports Daily. We were trying to hit on a little bit of everything. There's just too much going on. It is constant breaking news right now. Elias Lindholm to the Boston Bruins, 7-year deal, $54.25 million, looking at an AAV of 7.75. Brett Pesce gets a deal done with the New Jersey Devils, 6 years, $33 million. Craig Smith, 1 year, $1 million with the Chicago Blackhawks. Like I said, that is everything that's been officially registered with the league. Elliot Friedman reporting Brandon Duhaime, 2 years, $1.85 with the Washington Capitals. Jason Zucker, Buffalo, 1 year, $5 million. Nikita Zadorov, and this is one that you just feel great about if you like Nikita Zadorov, which I do. Great guy, great player. Boston, 6 years, $5 million per year. Nikita Zadorov, you know that is something he has felt he is worth for a long time. We saw him here in Colorado as a young player, and we saw the tools. We saw the upside for someone that size to be able to skate as well as he can. And he's got the offensive prowess while also being big, mean, one of the hardest hitters in the NHL. Never quite knew if he was going to get top 4 defenseman money. I mean, he may have just gotten top pairing money in Boston. Brendan Dillon going to New Jersey. That's another team right there, the New Jersey Devils, that you can tell thought they were going to be better than they were this last year. After showing a lot of promise the previous season and maybe pushing in a way that they weren't expected to, the New Jersey Devils, I think, ran out of steam based on their depth. And they didn't have a goaltender. And I think we had it proved to us again this year, as impressive as the Edmonton Oilers run was, it is really, really hard to get over the hump, not just up to the hump, over the hump, without having the bottom 6 depth that you need, the bottom pairing defensive depth that you need. And I'll give Stuart Skinner the fact that he bounced back in the Cup final. I'll give that to him. I just think he cost them too early in that series. Whew. Wow, Victor Arvidsson to Edmonton, 2 years, $4 million per year. That's not a bad deal for a player like Victor Arvidsson, who I think is very underrated. Smaller guy, a little bit undersized, but an effective point producer in the NHL. A little bit of a down year this last year in LA. But I actually like that. As I was just talking about Edmonton needing the depth, that's a player right there that I think adds some punch to the Edmonton Oilers lineup. Igor Sharangovich signs an extension in Calgary. Laurent Brossoit, 2 years, 3.3 in Chicago. This is a guy that was pushing for a starting role at the NHL level at one point, never really quite got there. I think that'll be an interesting fit. You know, I think the Chicago Blackhawks are further off than maybe they would like to admit they are, or they would like for them to be. I think there's a lot of pressure for them to become competitive quickly with Connor Bedard there, and they want to start, you know, getting playoff tickets in fans' hands. I don't know. I said it off the top. It's hard to build a team through free agency. But if you're the Nashville Predators, you are certainly trying. Brady Shea, 7 years, $7 million per. That is in addition to Jonathan Marchessault and Steven Stamkos also getting deals with the Nashville Predators. Let's jump over to Predators cap-friendly page here, since this is one of the last days we're going to get to use it. This cap-friendly is going away now after free agency. The Predators forward core. Colorado Avalanche Central Division rival. Philip Forsberg leading the way on an $8.5 million deal. Steven Stamkos now coming in at $8 million. After that, you've got, man, I mean, from a cap standpoint, Nashville looks like they are in really good shape. Little bit of an older team, because after Steven Stamkos at $8 million, you drop down to Jonathan Marchessault making $5.5. After that, you got Ryan O'Reilly coming in at $4.5. Those 4 players, I think as I read that out, there's probably a lot of Avs fans out there going, yeesh, that's a pretty good group. Philip Forsberg, 29 years old. Steven Stamkos, 34 years old. Jonathan Marchessault, 33 years old. Ryan O'Reilly, 33 years old. This is rapidly kind of feeling like the Dallas Stars of a couple years ago, right? Where you're just adding players that have been very good in this league before and hoping that they are still very good. Now, so you got Roman Josi on the back end, the highest paid player on the Nashville Predators, making just north of $9 million again at age 35. what I'm going to really be interested in, so right now there's only one goalie listed on the Nashville Predators NHL roster. As they extend UC Saros over the weekend at the NHL draft, they get an 8-year deal done with UC Saros. What does that mean for what they're doing in net with Yaroslav Askarov? He has one more year on his deal at $925 before just becoming an RFA. So it's not like you're at risk of losing him outright. But rumors are swirling this past weekend at the draft that Askarov was being floated out there as the Predators tried to move up in the first round. Right now, the current ask sounds like it's a first-round pick plus maybe a mid-level prospect plus a roster player. And when you see what the Nashville Predators are doing, you understand why. Barry Trotz came in last year and kind of cleaned house for the Nashville Predators. And there was a lot of folks in the Central Division going, okay, well, they're going for the full rebuild. They're going for the full tear down and rebuild. We'll see how long it takes until they're good again in a division that has very, very good, very competitive teams at the top in the Colorado Avalanche, Dallas Stars, and Winnipeg Jets. So after making moves that seemingly pointed towards a rebuild, Barry Trotz goes out and adds Ryan O'Reilly. He went out and acquired Tyson Barrie, and he made some moves that I don't want to say didn't make sense, but just were kind of counterintuitive to what he had done with the buyouts and the trades and this, that, and the other. But I think a year later, I was actually having this conversation with someone in Vegas this past week about Nashville and what the heck are they even doing? To me, it looks like they're trying to take a fast track to being Stanley Cup competitors. They understand they've got Roman Josi, a Norris Trophy finalist again this year. I think they understand they've got UC Saros, who's been a Vezina finalist multiple times in his career. They got Philip Forsberg, who, if you guys have followed along with me, you would know that I've always felt like maybe a little bit overrated for what he actually produces, but make no mistake, he has been maybe at his best these last 2 seasons. I mean, right in the middle of his prime. Maybe not the last 2 seasons, as he had an injury-riddled 22-23, but the 23-24 and the 21-22 seasons were very good for Philip Forsberg. He set career highs this last year with 48 goals, 94 points. So, hey, look, he's sticking it to me a little bit. Again, I've just always felt, when you look back at his career, the amount of hype that Philip Forsberg, I always felt, received versus what he actually produced just never really matched up. Before the 21-22 season, when he set his career high of 84 points, he had never eclipsed 65. He was an average offensive producer who it just felt like everything was super flashy with him. Every goal was really nice. But I think they're looking at that saying, we have Philip Forsberg at the height of his powers. We have a Norris caliber defenseman. We got a Vezina caliber goaltender. Why aren't we going for this? And it looks like that's what Barry Trotz is doing. We haven't gotten the full details with Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault yet, so we'll see if there's any kind of no trade associated with any of that. But let's grab this list here. Let me see if I can get this to Jay so we can get it up on the screen here in just a couple of minutes. Get you guys the most up-to-the-minute signings here of what's going on this morning. As again, like my Twitter notifications, in the last 60 seconds, I've gotten 4 Twitter notifications of new signings. All right, let me run through this here. Man, oh man. So yeah, Brady Shea, 7 years, $7 million per. Nikita Zadorov, 6 years, $5 million per. Oh, sorry. David Perron, 2 years, $4 million per. Victor Arvidsson, 2 years, $4 million per. David Perron, I guess I shouldn't say, signs with the Ottawa Senators. 2 years, $8 million total, $4 million per year. Where do I get that link? Slack? Oh, it's an email. Not that scientific. I'm overthinking it. Man, guys, this is drop comments as you guys have them as they're coming in. If you guys are seeing stuff, what you think on a lot of these signings. We make the joke all the time that today is the day when NHL GMs make some really bad decisions. And I'm not saying these are bad decisions, but you can just tell that this is the first time since COVID, first time since pre-COVID that there are some teams out there that have money to throw around. Jake DeBrusk gets a 7-year deal with the Vancouver Canucks. Someone check on Megan Angley. Danton Heinen, 2-year deal with the Vancouver Canucks. I think what we're seeing right here is teams finally having some money to throw around in free agency. It's been 4 years, 5 years since we've seen the cap move. And we've seen teams crunched. We've seen teams have to walk away from high-end players. We've seen teams have to make trades for very little in return just to make things work under the tight salary cap that we've seen really put a lot of constraints on teams in the last handful of years. And a little bit of breathing room, and we are seeing teams spend in a way that I just really can't believe it. And as I'm scrolling by, conversation here online, it makes a good argument or makes a good point that how many players are we seeing get priced out of situations because of what the market value is? There's a lot of these players that are far exceeding what I was expecting for the market value that they would get. Do want to give a shout out. Eric Johnson gets another 1-year deal, $1 million. Back with the Philadelphia Flyers. And wouldn't you know it, Danny Briere, who I believe played with Eric Johnson here in Colorado, assuming Eric Johnson's health at the time, says, since arriving at the deadline, Eric has fit seamlessly into our locker room and logged important minutes for us. His presence and championship experience, especially for our defensive core of players, will be valuable for our team throughout an entire season. This is a Philadelphia Flyers team that was knocking on the door of making the playoffs unexpectedly. Let's get that list pulled up here. This is, again, the list that has been submitted to the NHL. There are a lot of deals that are being reported out there. We're going based off of what has actually gone through Central Registry and is officially being reported by the NHL on this list here. You see Victor Arvidsson, David Perron there at the top. And as I'm mentioning that, 2 more roll in real time. Add Brendan Dillon to the New Jersey Devils. 3 years, $4 million cap hit. And then the Sean Monahan one that we did report on earlier. But otherwise, you're seeing here some of the money that's being doled out on free agency day. These numbers are higher than I thought. I mentioned it earlier how happy I was for Nikita Zadorov. At that term length, at $5 million, that's just a little rich for me. 29 years old, that contract's going to be done when he's 35. Now, look, there is more projected the salary cap is going to take an equal bump next year. So teams are going to continue to have money to spend, no question. And look, maybe that's the philosophy here. Maybe there's teams looking at what's happening with the salary cap and the direction the league is trending, and they're saying, we've got money to throw around. We'll deal with it later. I actually have this huge theory that the Vancouver Canucks, the Vegas Golden Knights, have really kind of reshaped the way that a lot of maybe NHL GMs are thinking and approaching things, and almost treating it with a we'll figure it out later kind of attitude. The Vegas Golden Knights haven't found a contract that they can't get out of yet. They just give out money, give out term, doesn't matter, and they deal with it when they need to deal with it, whether it be through a cap dump trade or a buyout or what have you. Long-term injured reserve. By the way, folks, brace yourselves for this one. I was talking to someone in Vegas this week about the Mitch Marners to Vegas Golden Knight rumors, and we were saying there's no way they can afford that. And this person, who I would trust their knowledge on this, told me, they said, yeah, they probably can't afford that, well, unless Mark Stone can't play next season. And I laughed, and they went, no, I'm serious. His back is really messed up. He may not be able to play next season. So, it's already out there. The Vegas Golden Knights are already talking internally about the fact that Mark Stone just might be too injured to play in the regular season. Hey, Jonathan Drouin, 1 year, Colorado Avalanche. Deal gets done. We are waiting on terms right now, but Jonathan Drouin stays in Colorado on a 1-year deal. That is absolutely outstanding news for GM Chris McFarland, Nathan McKinnon, and the Colorado Avalanche. They get it done. That's a big one for the Avs today. I'm really anxious to see what the term is going to be. That would have been a big blow to lose him. That would have been a big blow for the Avs with the way that you see things shaking out, the uncertainty around Val Nichushkin, Gabe Landeskog in the Avs' top 6, top 9. Losing a player like Jonathan Drouin would have been a massive blow. I'm going to be really curious to see what the terms of the deal are. But look, we talked to Chris McFarland about this over the weekend at the NHL draft. We asked him about Drouin and the fit, and he made a great point that I don't think should be overstated. As good as Jonathan Drouin was for the Colorado Avalanche, the Colorado Avalanche were great for Jonathan Drouin. Let's see if we can get his scorecard, his player card up here. Jay, I'll get you a Jonathan Drouin player card as soon as it comes available here. And I think that that's 100% accurate, and I think that's a big part of the reason why the deal was able to get across the finish line. Yes, Jonathan Drouin was key for the Avalanche, and he played a massive role in what they were able to accomplish, and he deserves massive credit for the breakout, the re-breakout year that he had. But make no mistake about it, the culture, the environment, the players around him, the coaching staff, the opportunities afforded Jonathan Drouin played a huge role in his ability to be successful here in Colorado. And we mentioned it when we talked about Val Nichushkin. And again, I know all the Val Nichushkin stuff, you don't feel anywhere near as good about it right now. But that was something that he did as well. Val Nichushkin could have gone out into the open market and probably made more money than what he signed with the Colorado Avalanche. But he understood the value of the fit. He understood the value of a system that he plays in that makes sense for him. And he found a way to get a deal done. To me, I think this is the same thing with Jonathan Marchessault. Jonathan Marchessault, I'm reading a name. Jonathan Drouin. Two Jonathans that are both French-Canadian. What do you want from me? I think it's the same thing with Jonathan Drouin. The New York Rangers were interested. The St. Louis Blues were interested. I got a little bit more of an updated list in there for you, Jay, if we get that one thrown up there. As we had a couple former Avs popping up, getting some new deals here. I'd be willing to bet there were some teams, the Boston Bruins were another one that were in on Jonathan Drouin, that were probably willing to throw bigger money at him than what the Avs were. The other thing that I think is interesting about this is, I'm sorry guys, I'm taking my pauses here as more information just continues to pour in just kind of across the board here, as Cam Talbot is going to the Detroit Red Wings. That will help booster what they've got going in goal. Him signing a one-year deal. Like I said, I am dying to see what the terms are on this deal in terms of how much the value will be for this season. That to me says Jonathan Drouin wants to be here longer than 1 year. He knows, and the Avs know, that they don't have the clarity right now to give him a long-term deal because of how much uncertainty there is with Val Nichushkin, how much uncertainty there is with I keep saying uncertainty with Gabe Landeskog, and that is true, but I do feel very confident Gabe Landeskog is going to be back this season. It's just a matter of when. By the time you get to next summer, you will have a much better idea of what you're looking at money-wise, what your situation is with Gabe Landeskog, how you can handle the Val Nichushkin situation, and what all that means. And you are going to be able to give Jonathan Drouin a little bit of a longer-term deal. That's a huge win for the Avs right there. To be able to get that one done after he was able to hit the open market and officially hear from what other teams had to say. For the Avs to find a way to get that done, that really does speak to the fit that Jonathan Drouin saw here in Colorado. Not just the value that they were kind of assigning to, it'd be great to have Nathan McKinnon's buddy here, and hey, he had a good year. This is a marriage between team and player. 2.5? What a bit of business for Chris McFarland. 2.5 for Jonathan Drouin to stay 1 year. We were hoping that would stay around 4.5. My goodness. Talk about a team-friendly deal. Chris McFarland gets it done. What do we have in the comments here, Jay? I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. That's as team-friendly as it gets. With the options that were probably available to him out there, multi-year deals likely, probably higher AAVs, and he sees the value in a good situation. And he did mention too, Jonathan Drouin's got young kids. Jonathan Drouin's got a wife, he's got a family, and he sees the value in staying here in a situation that makes sense for him. And this is a player who has been put through the ringer in the NHL, has had to step away before to take care of his mental health, has really struggled with the overwhelming spotlight of Montreal and constantly being picked apart, and you know, he's not good enough, doesn't live up to the hype. Oh, this is what they traded for him. And for him to come to Colorado and be able to settle into the year that he had, because he wasn't setting the world on fire from day one. took a bit for him to get there. Corey Massack here from the Denver Post. That's great value based off of what he did last year. I could not agree more. Again, we talked about it on this show several times, that you were probably based on the production and what the interest was going to be out there for Jonathan Drouin. We were saying, geesh, if you can keep this under 5, that's a massive win. It's gonna strap you a bit. I'm not really sure what they're gonna be able to do beyond that. To be able to keep it not only under 5, not only under 3, but at 2.5, that really is. I mean, the replies that are coming in saying team friendly. I'm not even sure if team friendly fully encompasses that. Now, again, there may be a little bit of like a handshake, contracts in the drawer type of deal here. That, hey, give us a couple months to get figured out, what's going on with these other things, and we're going to get you a longer term extension. Not very familiar with hockey contracts. Can this be full of incentives? Because 2.5 mil is an absolute steal. That's part of what I was thinking when I was saying that I'd like to see the full terms of it. There is going to have to be some performance bonuses. And there it is. There's the player card. I'm getting it over to Jay right now so we can talk a little bit more about Jonathan Drouin and what he was able to do for the Avs this year. That's coming your way, Jay. I'm a little bit of a loss for words right now, folks. I wasn't expecting that. I really did. I told people, I went on multiple shows and said, I expected this to get done. I expected Jonathan Drouin to stay in Colorado. I just thought the fit made too much sense. I thought the production made too much sense. And just as we talked to him throughout the year, he was constantly commenting on the fact that it was something that really worked and made sense for him. And how much he loved it here and the culture. And yes, it is very well documented, him and Nathan MacKinnon's friendship, but it went beyond that. And it's the progression that you're seeing here over the last 2 seasons. Because yes, he had injury problems. And when the Avs signed Jonathan Drouin last summer, I made the assertion, I went on a bunch of shows and said, look, this is a player that when you project his points out over a full 82-game season, he's been a productive player. His issue was health. Couldn't stay in the lineup. But let's also be fully honest with ourselves. He came here, and the reason he took $850K was because he had to prove that he could bounce back, that he was the player that he showed flashes of when he was younger. An unbelievably hardworking guy. You saw it grow throughout the year, the confidence to play with the puck on his stick. I remember Nathan MacKinnon making the comment to us once that once we started to see the improvement in play of Jonathan Drouin, we asked Nathan MacKinnon, what is it? What is causing his play to suddenly take off? And he said he doesn't care anymore. And we all kind of looked, and what he meant was, and what he followed up by saying was, he doesn't care if he makes a mistake. He's not afraid to go out there and play the way that he knows he can and should play. And that's what's leading to, he's trusting his process. He's trusting his ability. At the beginning of the year, he wouldn't shoot. Felt a little bit like Alex Tanguay or Alexander Kerfoot. He'd have wide open looks. He'd look to make that one extra pass to slip it through a seam, something like that. And by the end of the year, he was just putting pucks to the net. And they were finding their way in. And it was a confidence thing. And you could see that Jonathan Drouin had to work, and work is the key word there, had to work to earn his confidence back. Nathan MacKinnon sets the standard of this team in terms of work ethic and commitment and dedication to what you're doing. And from day one of training camp, we saw Jonathan Drouin completely buy into that. Was out early, stayed on late, was at every optional, it felt like, was getting in the workouts after, was putting in the work to round out his game, to become a better defensive forward, to be more of a threat with the puck on his stick, that he might take it to the net on you and not just look for a pass. His playmaking ability, make no mistake, is unbelievable. It's undeniable. But there were teams that you could tell were playing that he's not going to shoot, so don't play him to shoot. Once he became a threat there, you didn't really know what to expect with Jonathan Drouin. Quote that was on ESPN, Jonathan Drouin experienced a renaissance with the Avalanche in 23-24. I think that's the only appropriate way to describe it. His game went to a different level. We saw a side of Jonathan Drouin that we hadn't seen in the NHL before. 19 goals, 37 assists for a career high of 56 points. Came up just 2 goals shy of his career high for that as well. I think another year in this system, I'm sorry, I want to go back to the work. So I was about to say the word work again. I mentioned that Nathan MacKinnon told us he doesn't care. He's not afraid to go out there and play the way that he should play. And how did he earn that confidence? It was by committing himself to the details of the game away from the puck. We've heard Jared Bednar talk about that with Nathan MacKinnon, that one of the biggest reasons that Jared Bednar feels the Avs won the Stanley Cup in 2022 was Nathan MacKinnon's commitment to play all 200 feet and not just when the puck was on his stick. Not that I'm saying Nathan MacKinnon was doing that before, but that's something that Jared Bednar has specifically called out to us before. I think you saw the same details and the same dedication going to Jonathan Drouin's work ethic and habits last season. And when you take care of your play away from the puck, it's so funny how all of that just seems to come for it. It just seems to fall in place. Now look, not a perfect player. He's still got room to go. The Avs tried him on the power play several times this year. Just didn't quite work. Not every time. He had flashes where it really, it really seemed to click. But overall, I think they just kind of find, they just kind of found pockets where it worked, and otherwise they were kind of rotating around. I think another season where he's not having to build his game back up. There was so much of the year for Jonathan Drouin spent trying to build himself and his game back to the point that he knew he could get to. And he talked about that with us all year. I know I can get there. I'm going to get there. We're going to build. We're going to get there. And I think he did. And now that he can come into a year having put in all of that work last year, I think there's a chance we'd see Jonathan Drouin even take his game to a higher level. And I'm really anxious to see what he can do here. I would have thought it would have been a crime to see him walk from the Avs after Kibby, how are you? To take all that good work that he had here in Colorado, everything that he had built, all of that momentum that he had in his career, and I think it would have been a shame to see him go somewhere else. And for the Avs to get it done so that the work can continue, both from Jonathan Drouin's perspective and from the Avs' perspective. We can continue to build. And again, I just want to make sure I am re-emphasizing the fact that I think the value was obviously team friendly. And that was something that Jonathan Drouin did. But I don't want to understate the one-year deal. To me, that is a sign that the Avs, want to keep Jonathan Drouin here longer term, but don't have the ability to do it right in this exact moment. That to me is something that says, you're going to be an Av for a long time. We need you to give us a year to get some more clarity. And then we're going to keep you here long term. I think that's the plan. I think it's a fit that makes a ton of sense. I think this is an unbelievable steal for the Avs. At 2.5, only 1 year, you can get that. You kick that can down the road. You take care of the rest of that next summer. What a bit of business for Chris McFarland. And you can't undersell Jonathan Drouin's role in this. This is a contract signed by a player that understood a good situation and wanted to be here. Nathan MacKinnon, I'm sure, is super happy it worked out. And look, I think this is great for Jonathan Drouin too. He signed some big deals in his career. He's made a lot of money, and he was willing to say, I'm taking a little bit less for the betterment of the team. Let's go win this thing. That's the feel-good story of the day for me. That's the feel-good story of the day for me. All right. So now you all but expect, shifting gears just a little bit here, you all but expect the Nashville Predators are going to move on. Wow. From Askarov, as they sign Scott Wedgwood to a 2-year deal. Let's get you an updated tracker here, Jay, as they continue to roll in. But another goalie, a bona fide backup goalie, signed in Nashville. So we'll see. That's going to be another shoe that I am expecting to drop at some point here today, is that we're probably going to see Yaroslav Askarov on the move. I just don't really know. Again, the Predators continue to do things that just befuddle me a little bit. I wanted to mention Yakov Trenin. We talked a few weeks ago on one of our shows. We had Evan Rowell on, and there were projections out there saying that Yakov Trenin was going to fetch near 3.3. And we all said, I think that's crazy. Yakov Trenin's a very good player. He's a big guy, plays with some speed, has a nice bit of skill and touch to his game, can score goals, but 3.3 for a guy that's going to play on your fourth line, woof. No thanks. I don't think there's any way he gets that. Not only does he get 3.3, he gets 3.5 with the Minnesota Wild. 3.5 per year for Yakov Trenin. Again, with all due respect to Yakov Trenin, 4 years, 3.5 per for a grand total of $14 million. Look, I know the Minnesota Wild aren't really a playoff contender right now. And they're looking to fill out their roster. That's a deal I just can't imagine. See, again, like this is one where I feel like GMs are maybe getting a little bit overzealous with the extra money they've got to throw around a bit. Give them the deal. We'll figure it out in a couple more years, which is crazy given that the Minnesota Wild are still paying for the last bad contracts that they signed. And Now, I'm happy for Yakov Trenin. We got to know him. He's a great guy, great individual, and again, works really hard. I just don't know if 3.5 is a number that I would feel confident at paying a guy like Yakov Trenin. Yakov Trenin is making $1 million more than Jonathan Drouin, and I don't think that's I wouldn't be mad if I'm Jonathan Drouin. That's a major overpay for Yakov Trenin. I want to talk a little bit about, because there are some comments coming out from Jonathan Marchessault and Steven Stamkos, both saying that they didn't feel like their teams, their respective former clubs, worked very hard to keep him. This is Jonathan Marchessault on TSN just a few moments ago on leaving Vegas, now signing with the Nashville Predators. The tough part is there really wasn't a deep, quote, the tough part is there really wasn't a decent offer on the table. I don't think they tried their best to keep me, but that's part of the business, and they probably have other plans. That's the business we're in, so you move on. We've talked about it before. The Vegas Golden Knights, they do. They do what they have to do. They take care of their business, and they say it's a business. We're not here for the warm and fuzzies. We're not here to make friends. We're not here to, I don't know, give out team-friendly types of things, player-friendly types of deals. And they cut you loose when they decide it's time to move in another direction. Jonathan Marchessault was an original misfit, part of the original expansion draft, and helped win them a Stanley Cup, won the Conn Smythe 2 seasons ago, and for them to just say, thanks, we'll be better off without you, I do find really surprising. I know Ken Bulkey pretty well in Vegas, who covers the Vegas Golden Knights for Sinbin. And I've been following along a little bit of his tweets. I didn't get really a chance to catch up with him this week in Vegas. And I mean, he's making the argument that this is a massive failure on behalf of the Vegas Golden Knights to, again, like what we talked about with Steven Stamkos, it's not that you're moving on from a player. It's not that you're moving on from a key piece of someone who's been a key player in your organization, but it's that you're letting them walk for nothing. That's the part to me that I can understand why, if you're Jonathan Marchessault, you feel slighted. And I actually even find it a little bit funny that both him and Stamkos end up in Nashville, both guys that felt slighted by the fact that they didn't feel that their former teams made a big enough effort to keep them. Key players. Steven Stamkos was the captain of the Tampa Bay Lightning, won the Stanley Cup twice. Jonathan Marchessault, like I said, Conn Smythe winner 2 seasons ago, an original Vegas Golden Knight. See ya for nothing. Head on out. Don't let the door hit you. And it's just, I don't remember the last time we've seen in the same summer two players like Marchessault and Steven Stamkos just allowed to walk in free agency. I totally get why they both feel slighted. And I'd be willing to bet both those guys are going to have pretty big years. If you're the Colorado Avalanche, you don't love that, as they just moved into your division. But I'm with him. I'm with Jonathan Marchessault. From folks I've talked to, reports we've seen out there, it doesn't really sound like the Vegas Golden Knights had any interest in it. They kind of moved on, and we're going to try to improve their roster elsewhere. We'll see what they do. I mentioned it off the top. If you weren't here when we started, I was told this past week in Vegas by someone who would know that there's a chance Mark Stone is not healthy for the start of the season. I was actually told there's a chance he doesn't play next season because his back is just so injured. It wasn't too injured to play in round one, but that they are already afraid, the Vegas Golden Knights are already worried that that Mark Stone won't be able to go this year. Back's just a little bit too hurt. So expect some more big signings to come in for the Vegas Golden Knights, or perhaps a big trade or two. That's what I'm starting to look out for now. What trades are we going to start to see come across? I mentioned Askarov a minute ago. Are we going to see teams start to try to move money around? Now, keep in mind, not every free agent has to be signed today. There's going to be plenty of names that we're going to get to the end of the day, and they will still be out there. But it's this has been one of the more, and maybe I'm going to be wrong by the numbers when I say this, but like this feels like one of the more active January 1sts that we've seen in a while. Warren Foegele gets a 3-year deal with the LA Kings. That details of that contract have yet to be disclosed, but he played a big role for the Edmonton Oilers in the Stanley Cup final. He was a key player for them when the likes of Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid were being held off the score sheet. Warren Foegele played a sneaky big role. He gets rewarded with a 3-year deal in LA. Here's what what I will say about what we're seeing some teams do today, specifically the Washington Capitals, the Boston Bruins, the Nashville Predators, absolutely. Vancouver Canucks. I'm seeing a lot of teams that are getting better. You can feel however you feel about their contracts and the status of those contracts and how much you're paying and how much term you're giving. There's probably a lot of those where you think and feel, hey, that's too much, hey, that's too long, and I probably agree with you. But in terms of on-ice results, if you remove the dollar figures from it and what it means against the salary cap, I'm seeing a lot of teams get better. The Washington Capitals, I think, are the most interesting one to me, not just what they've done today, but what they've done over the last several days, let's say the last week. They bring in Pierre-Luc Dubois and they move on from Darcy Kemper. To replace Darcy Kemper, they go out and add Logan Thompson. And we've seen them be pretty active today. And that is a team to me that is saying, hey, look, we found a way to scratch and claw our way and get into the postseason. We have a player that is pounding on the door of history. We're officially on record watch, folks. I think it's going to be tough for him to get there this year, but make no mistake, we are officially on Wayne Gretzky goal record watch with Alex Ovechkin. Any level of an exceptional year for him gets him there. And I think the Washington Capitals are saying, we want to give Alex Ovechkin the best team we possibly can to try to do that. Now, I don't think they're retooling themselves here into cup contenders or anything, but I think they've improved their roster. I like the Toronto Maple Leafs adding Brandon Tanev. I really like that move for them. There's obviously every year the hype around the Toronto Maple Leafs saying, is this the year? And the big four, and what are you going to do? I have felt for the last number of years, with all due respect to Morgan Riley, they haven't had the horses on the back end. I know Jake Muzzin a few years ago was someone that really brought a lot of punch and fire and some nastiness to their back end, but he dealt with just so many injuries. Covering the Avalanche Stars series this past season, we got to see up close what a player, not a player like Brandon Tanev, what Brandon Tanev brings. He's a guy that can make it legitimately miserable on opposing teams' top players. And I think that's something that the Toronto Maple Leafs have been desperately missing. The ability to not just outscore their problems, but outmatch their opponents. And, you know, Liv Moods, our very own Liv Moods out here just stirring the pot. Unpopular opinion, I love the idea of Russell Westbrook in Denver. That was funny enough that it caught my eye as I was scrolling. But I thought that that's what's been missing. The Toronto Maple Leafs and truthfully the Edmonton Oilers, I feel, have built their teams around, can we outscore this? Can we just outlast our problems in a 60-minute game against another team? I think bringing in a guy like Tanev addresses that a little bit for the Toronto Maple Leafs. You've got a guy that you can match with. Austin Matthews, a really strong defensive forward. An Austin Matthews up front, Brandon Tanev on the back. That's a sneaky little shutdown line. And oh yeah, Austin Matthews had 69 goals this year. Actually, I think I've got an Austin Matthews oversized upper deck player card right here. 69 goals, really strong defensive forward. Adding Brandon Tanev to that mix, I think is big. I think that's, in my opinion, that is the most significant movement the Maple Leafs have had on their back end in a long time. There's Nathan McKinnon's draft photo. JJ Jerez, we had the mini vlog go out that Jay got pushed out the other day. We got the full vlog coming out from the draft where he picked up these cards. Do also want to say, while you're here on social media today, head on over to our Guerilla Sports YouTube channel. You guys hear me talk about Jay all the time. He's always running stuff behind the scenes. He jumped in front of the camera to put together a great piece on Nathan McKinnon and how he ended up from the time he was drafted to being a Hart Trophy winner this last week. Head over to our YouTube channel to find that. We'll push the link for you guys a little bit later today, once I can catch my breath from everything that's been happening here. Brandon Montour, 7 years, 7.14 with the Seattle Kraken. I like the player. I like the fit. That's a lot of money. That is a lot of money for Brandon Montour. But hey, look, it's the biggest deal that Ron Francis has ever handed out. 7 years, 7.14, Stanley Cup champion Brandon Montour. I thought he was great for the Florida Panthers. I really like him as a player. Again, I just think that's a little rich. But that seems to be the theme of today, right? It's all just a little bit too rich. And that's really the, the theme of NHL free agency in general. And they're doling out the money. Is anyone else getting spam texts at an unbelievable rate? Are you getting any? No? You're probably, yeah. I swear, every day I'm getting 10 spam texts. It's crazy. Cam Talbot, 2 years, 2.5 per to play in net for the Detroit Red Wings. And then Laurent Brossoit, 2 years, $3.3 million to play that same position in net for the Chicago Blackhawks. All right, let's see here. We will be getting a full NHL schedule tomorrow. That's fun on the heels of free agency. Get some clarity on who's going to be playing where and when. Let's see. I want to go in and look at let's just run through the teams in the Central. Utah made some moves at the draft this weekend. Bill Armstrong, you could tell, was given the green light from Ryan Smith. Go make us a contender. I'd say playoff contender. I don't necessarily think that the Utah Hockey Club as of right now is a Stanley Cup contender, but you could tell they were told, go get us in the mix. And that's what they've done. I think we are legitimately staring down a world where you are saying the St. Louis Blues and the Minnesota Wild are clear, runaway, the worst teams in the division. Can maybe put the Blackhawks in there too. They're working real hard though to fix that. Chicago Blackhawks are working real hard to get out from the basement of this division. We went over Nashville earlier and what they've done, what they've added. Going to be interesting to see what they do with Askarov to maybe try to bolster that middle six there. Look, I mentioned it in Vegas. The Avs went out and they drafted Ilya Nabokov out of the KHL. 21-year-old goaltending prospect, was the KHL's playoff MVP this past season, the youngest player to ever win the award. I don't know, man. With the Ross Colton rumors floating around out there, Nashville being one of the teams that's in on it, there's just something that is tickling me that is saying I'm not completely ruling out the idea that the Avs might be in on Askarov. I don't know. That's purely speculative. We're going to be anxious to see what the Nashville Predators continue to add to this group as the day goes on. Actually, I want to talk about Utah. The Utah Hockey Club already had the likes of Clayton Keller. I like Nick Schmaltz. And then you had a lot of good, Lawson Krause. You had some good middle six guys. Alexander Kerfoot, Nick Bukestad. I really like Matthias Michelli. I really like Logan Cooley, who's on an ELC. They go out this weekend and add Mikhail Sergachev from the Tampa Bay Lightning. There was an audible gasp on the draft floor. Then they go out the next day and add Sean Durzi, John Marino. They stacked their back end, at least their top three. I think on the forward side, they've got guys that are coming. I think you now really have to respect what they've got on the back end. We're going to find out if Mikhail Sergachev can be a number one. A little bit unproven still, but we're going to find out. Carl Vejmelka, Connor Ingram in net. I think those are both guys who exceeded expectations. I'll say Connor Ingram exceeded expectations. Carl Vejmelka has really kind of established himself as a goaltender who can be right up near the top of the league, but has a little bit of this problem, a little bit of an inconsistency problem. Ian Cole also signs a one-year deal to join the Utah Hockey Club. That's a team that, again, we mentioned it earlier, teams that are getting better. Who is getting better? I think the Utah Hockey Club has gotten better than they were last year as the Arizona Coyotes. That's a team that has felt like they've been knocking on the door. And that light knocking might become some pounding on the door this year as they look to continue to improve. Their biggest hurdle is going to be, can you overtake one of Nashville, Colorado, Winnipeg, or Dallas? That's going to be the uphill climb that Utah faces. Are you better than one of those teams? There is one more wild card spot, assuming all four of those Central Division teams make the playoffs. But you're talking about beating out the Pacific Division, which you all know I think is the weakest division in the NHL. The Chicago Blackhawks, all right, I may already be walking back what I said about the Blues and the Wild being runaway the worst teams in the division. They're trying. They are trying to get better. They signed Tyler Bertuzzi, 5.5. That's going to go for 4 years. Teuvo Teravainen returns to the Chicago Blackhawks, 5.4. That's going to go for 3 years. And then you're dropping down. You got Nick Foligno there, Andreas Athanasiou, Jason Dickinson, Ilya Mikheyev. You got Ryan Donato, Philip Kurashev, Lucas Reichel, good players. And then, of course, you obviously have Connor Bedard making $950 for this season and next. $950. I thought it was $925. He's going to get a big raise probably next summer. That'll kick in 2 years. But running through that roster, they've still got some work to do. But look, that's a team that you can tell is pushing, is trying to get better. They're trying to become more competitive. And again, it's going to take some time to get there. You can't just snap your fingers and say that's there. All right, I think we've got Central Division signings here. Yeah, there it is. There it is. I want to pull that up so I can see a little bit better. But this is what we've seen out of the Central today. And it is, thank you, Jay. Got Jay just here all over the place. So Jonathan Drouin gets a one-year deal with the Avs. The St. Louis Blues, one-year deal, $1 million. Kasperi Kapanen. Utah Hockey Club have been, them and the Nashville Predators have been among the most busy. Ian Cole, Kevin Connaughton, two former Avs right there. Then Kevin Stenlund, all getting deals with the Utah Hockey Club. And then Nashville, I definitely think, as of today, is the most improved Central Division team. Brady Shea, Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault, all coming in on multi-year deals. 7 years for Brady Shea, 4 years for Steven Stamkos, and 5 years for Jonathan Marchessault. Now, here's what stands out to me the most about those deals. Brady Shea will be 37 when that deal expires. Steven Stamkos, 38 when his deal expires. Jonathan Marchessault, 38 when his deal expires. All are for big money. This is Barry Trotz banking on those players being able to come in and immediately help get this team to the next level. And look, he's bringing in winners. Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault have both won Stanley Cups within the last 5 years. They've both been to multiple Stanley Cup finals. Add that to Ryan O'Reilly, and you've got, I mean, there's a leadership core. I talked about it last week about we saw the toll it took on the Calgary Flames when you lose not just a lot of players, but key players. And not just key players on the ice, key contributors to your locker room and your culture. The effect and the impact that it can have on the organization and how difficult it is to maybe get that going back in the right direction. Well, when the Nashville Predators moved on from Ryan Johansson and Matt Duchene last summer, it was a reset of culture. Now, Ryan O'Reilly was able to come in and kind of be the leader and you know, along with Philip Forsberg, UC Saros to kind of grab the reins of that team and start to get them going in a direction that I think maybe exceeded expectations. Now to go in and add players like this, they're making a mad dash to try and fast-track competitiveness, to try to fast-track being contenders. We'll see if it works. I really don't know if it's going to. These are good players. It's hard to build through free agency. I'll give them full marks if they come out and are one of the top teams in the Central last year. They've got the players on paper to do it. Nashville, on paper, has the players at least in the top 6. At least in the top 6. Then you've got Roman Josi, who's a multi-time Norris candidate. You've got UC Saros and net, Vezina caliber goaltender. They can do it. Can they do it with players at that age at those dollar figures? We're going to get a lot of looks at the Predators this year, covered in the, you know, as we cover the Colorado Avalanche here. And, man, that's going to be interesting. Matt Duchene, I think the other maybe biggest surprise, Casey DeSmith. 1 year for $3 million to go back up Jake Ottinger. They lose Scott Wedgwood, so they go out and get Casey DeSmith. I think that's an upgrade for them at backup. I think you like what you've got in net now for the Dallas Stars. I mean, I think you really like what you got in net now. You obviously love Jake Ottinger, but I think you're very happy with what you've got in net now. I think Casey DeSmith is a perfect high-end backup. Chandler Stevenson also heading to the Seattle Kraken. The Seattle Kraken. Oh boy, Seattle Kraken took a step back last year. After making it to the playoffs and even winning a round by knocking out the defending Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche, they take a step back last year, missed the playoffs altogether, and you can tell they are trying to make a splash this year. I mentioned earlier they signed Brandon Montour, 7 years, just north of $7 million. Well, this time it's Chandler Stevenson, 7 years, $6.3 million. Chandler Stevenson is an interesting guy. Before last season, there was a lot of talk about Chandler Stevenson being like one of the most under-the-radar players in the league. Was key in the Vegas Golden Knights Stanley Cup championship. But it was a big step back this past year. Not a big step back. It was a step back. The shine wore off of Chandler Stevenson just a little bit. And I think at that term, at that dollar figure, this is a big risk for the Seattle Kraken. I think the Seattle Kraken have handed out 2 contracts today that are both risky. That are 2 deals that may age horribly. Again, I like Brandon Montour. And truthfully, I like Chandler Stevenson. Let's go back one summer, and I'll be honest. I was expecting that maybe that would be a player that the Avs would have interest in. Slot in behind Nathan McKinnon. Not after what I saw last year, and not for north of $6 million for 7 years. The Kraken have been an interesting team. I thought they had a chance to come out and build a playoff team on day one of their expansion. At the expansion draft, I thought the players were out there for them to build a legitimate playoff team. They chose not to do that. And the conversation was, we're playing the long game. We don't want to be competitive this year. We want to be competitive for 10 years. Okay? That's fine. But basically, ever since that, they've kind of just done stuff that are competing philosophies. And I think part of that was the fact that they really took a big step in year 2. And I think it maybe gave them this sense of like, we're good. We're a good team. We built it right. Now let's just go stack on top of this and add. As with when the Vegas Golden Knights came in via expansion, they were just out like, right, yep, we're trying to win. You know, they trade a first, second, and third to go bring in Tomas Tatar that year. Like they were like, we are trying to win. From day one, the Vegas Golden Knights made that obvious. And, wow, Matt Dumba to Dallas. That is not a Brandon Tanev replacement, I'll tell you that. And I think I'm starting to wonder if the Seattle Kraken don't really have a vision. Of course they have a vision. I'm just wondering if they're starting to have competing visions. Ryan Lomberg signs a 2-year deal, $2 million per with Calgary. He's a depth winger, in and out of your lineup a bit, but my goodness, can that dude party? Have you seen any of that, Jay? Ryan Lomberg? You should on Twitter, you should search for Ryan Lomberg. I don't know I don't know how you drink that much that many days in a row. The dude was blasted every day for like a week after they won. He was crowd surfing just a couple days ago. I don't know how you do it, but he is bound for Calgary. So we may not have to worry about Stanley Cup parties for a while, for at least 2 years. Calgary Flames, again, continue to... I think they're retooling. I think they're understanding that they're in a really tough position with the Huberdeau contracts, the Weegar contracts. It sounds like they're shopping Nazem Kadri. I know a lot of Avs fans would like to see the Avs bring him back. But there's a reason the Avs didn't want to sign that contract. It's not just the money. It's not just if Calgary eats half of it. It's the term. It's the term, and will Kadri be able to produce to match the contract by the end of that term? We don't know. More comments just coming through on Jonathan Drouin here, into Twitter and things like that about the one-year deal and then being able to give him what he maybe truly feels he's worth starting next year. I completely agree. I think there's a chance. Look, there will be a lot of fringe stuff that comes in for the Avs, but I really wouldn't be that surprised to see the Avs maybe be done for today, just today, and wait to see what other players that they may be able to scoop up whose January 1 didn't go necessarily the way that they wanted it to. Think Evan Rodriguez 2 seasons ago. Evan Rodriguez and his camp were expecting a big payday. He ends up sitting out there for a little bit too long, and the Avs were able to get him on a deal. Yeah, there he is. There's Ryan Lomberg, man. And again, I think this was like day 5 of him not wearing a shirt. I've seen so many videos and pictures of this dude partying in South Beach, and I haven't seen him shirted once. But hey, it started with the Washington Capitals, where the winning the Stanley Cup has now kind of turned into like a competition of who can party the hardest for the next week. And we've seen some teams do exactly that. But Ryan Lomberg, like seriously, do yourself a favor and at the end of the day, when you're trying to wind down from the craziness of today, just search Ryan Lomberg on Twitter or X and just follow along with some of the tweets, the videos, and the pictures. He may be rivaling Alex Ovechkin swimming in the fountains in Vegas and stuff like that, and doing keg stands out of the Stanley Cup. Ryan Lomberg may be pushing a close second behind that. All right. Oh, I think I was talking about Drouin. I just, the Avs are going to be able to give him the money that he deserves on the term that he deserves, and I really wouldn't even be surprised if that was something that, now look, no one's breaking the rules here. They're not tampering. They're not doing stuff ahead of time, but there may be a, hey, and just take a peek at whatever that contract is over there. That's just a sample contract we had left out. That'll be in the drawer, throughout the year. And it's probably something with a little bit more term and quite a bit more money for Jonathan Drouin that just says, like, help us get through this year. Help us get through the uncertainty of this year. We're going to make it worth your while. It's a good bit of business for Chris MacFarland. Great bit of business for Jonathan Drouin. And look, we didn't know if this would come to fruition. Jonathan Drouin's got an agent who historically makes sure to look out for his clients and get them the money that they deserve. And Alan Walsh and the Jonathan Drouin camp end up signing, being good with $2.5 million on a one-year deal. I think just you got to feel great about that if you're the Avs and their front office. I mentioned it earlier. Chris MacFarland did tell us. Can we get his player card thrown back up there? Sorry, just for folks who weren't in here earlier. Chris MacFarland made the point. Jonathan Drouin was amazing for the Avs. He was great for the Avs. But at the same time, the Avs were amazing for Drouin. And I don't think that can be understated enough. I think that's why you end up with the deal that you see here today. You look at the bounce back that Jonathan Drouin had in his year with the Avs. And I mentioned it earlier, it was work. rounding out his game, perfecting his play away from the puck, paying attention to the fine details of what makes a successful hockey player. And I think it's no coincidence that when you take care of that part of your game, the goals and the points and the production all follows suit. Jared Bednar has told us many times about the reason that he thinks the Avs won the 2022 Stanley Cup is because of Nathan MacKinnon's commitment to play a full 200-foot game. Not just wanting to score, not wanting to just put up the points and help the Avs outscore whatever problems they have that night, but the work ethic, the consistency, and the attention to detail in his game. That was what made Nathan MacKinnon one of the best players in the league in 2022 and was a really quiet reason why they won the Stanley Cup. He didn't win the Conn Smythe, but he did everything that the team needed him to. To me, Jonathan Drouin had to put in that same work. He had to build his game back up from where it was. And it wasn't an all-season thing for Drouin. He had to build his game and his confidence to the level that his instincts could then start taking over. Again, I told the story earlier on this show that when we asked Nathan MacKinnon what has changed in Jonathan Drouin, why is he suddenly taking his game to a different level that we haven't even seen earlier this year? And he said he stopped caring. And when we said, what do you mean he stopped caring? It doesn't look like he stopped caring about the game. He said, no, he stopped being afraid to make a mistake. And he stopped being afraid of going out there and making a bad play or missing a pass. He's going out there and trusting his instincts and his ability. And then it was the work that you would see before practice, after practice, when it was optional skates, getting in the work in the gym, after games. He told us that when he signed, Nathan MacKinnon told him, bring your work boots because we're going to work. And you know, Nathan MacKinnon has told us that he takes a tremendous amount of responsibility in making sure that Jonathan Drouin is the player that the Avalanche were promised, and then in turn making sure that Jonathan Drouin has the success that Nathan MacKinnon promised. And I think Nathan MacKinnon taking on that role, 2 years, $3.75 for Matt Dumba to Dallas. What are we doing here, folks? Nathan MacKinnon, you know, said that he, you know, he takes a lot of that ownership, and that's why he works so hard with Jonathan Drouin. That's why he makes sure that he's putting in the work and that he's out there with him. And I think that is a real sneaky sign of the leadership that has developed over the years for Nathan MacKinnon. He has found a way to be a leader, not just in the screaming and yelling and demanding highly of everyone. He's finding ways, Nathan MacKinnon is finding ways to communicate with individuals and helping them put in the work that they need, and not just leading by example, but saying, I'm going to do it with you. And now, again, I'm not saying that this hasn't always been something that Nathan MacKinnon has, I'm not saying he hasn't always had those types of traits where he's a good leader, but we've always heard he's a quiet leader. It's a do as I do, and then he's not afraid to get after guys if he feels that the commitment level, the work ethic, the effort isn't where it needs to be. This seems to be there's a lot of credit that I think Nathan MacKinnon deserves for getting Jonathan Drouin to Colorado, and then helping Jonathan Drouin have the success that he did. And then Nathan MacKinnon did just tell us this past week in Vegas that he has been a part of this ongoing negotiation between Drouin and the Avs. From Evan Rowell. I think what we've learned today is that if you're a veteran NHL defenseman and you are still living and breathing, you will get paid on July 1st. I think that's pretty fair. All right, well, I think we've got a second here of a lull. It was the Upper Deck NHL draft, and we scored some sweet packs of cards. So we're back to doing some opening up of cards on the show. We've got a box here. Blake has more that he brought with him into the office that I haven't even seen. So I'm just going to dig into these. Cale Makar featured on the cover of the pack and on the cover of the box. 2022-2023 NHL Metal Universe Upper Deck cards. I mentioned it earlier, just an outstanding weekend and week really put on by the NHL. We give the NHL a hard time. A lot of people do. For the fact that they seem to fumble a lot of their major events, a lot of their tentpole events just aren't really done to the standard that you would want them to. This was not one of them. I thought the NHL hit 2 home runs this week. The award the award show was so cringy. Did you watch it, Jay? Did you watch the award? Just the look on his face. Just so everyone knows, we're working on getting Jay a mic and a camera, so it's not just me having to relay what his facial expressions were. We're working on it. But the actual presentation of the award show, it was cringy. It was bad. But I actually really liked the format. They normally award over 10 awards in one night. It's normally like a 3-hour event, and they save the biggest awards for last. I liked the fact that they took it. It was 5 awards that were awarded in person. It was a tight 60 minutes. I liked it. I thought it was good. I thought the overall format was a home run. Maybe let's work on how those are hosted. But I thought that was the best draft that the NHL has put on, truthfully. All right, first pull here. Getting a big upgrade today. Philip Forsberg, Nashville Predators. Whoa, that is a crazy card. Oliver Bjorkstrand, Seattle Kraken. Another team looking to make some upgrades. This is the crazy one. We'll have to get this one straight in the binder. Wyatt Johnston, standout rookie for the Dallas Stars. That's a pretty cool one. That is a pretty cool one. David Jiricek, whose brother was drafted this past weekend. Adam Jiricek, who I actually was laughing. He was a guy that I liked for the Avs in the first round. He fell all the way till the 3rd round. Told Bill Guerin, Minnesota Wild GM, when he was selected, you just got the biggest steal in the draft. I promise you that. David Jiricek of the Columbus Blue Jackets. There's his brother. Patrice Bergeron in his final season with the Boston Bruins, 22-23. Victor Olofsson of the Buffalo Sabres, and then we did get another Braden Point. We pulled a couple Braden Points so far in some of these packs. I am enjoying the hell out of this. Collecting hockey cards was definitely something I was big into as a kid. Going into the card stores and either finding individuals or buying the packs and ripping them open. So we've had a ton of fun doing that again here on these shows, and I'm looking forward to it because we got a lot more to open. We have one of these here that I'm going to wait for JJ to get back, but we do have a Shane Wright Star Rookies right there. At the top of this, clear. It's wrapped in clear, so not quite the same anticipation, but looking forward to getting all those opened up. Another good pull. Another good pull. All right, guys, well, we've been going here for, I think we're at almost about 90 minutes. So I think I'm going to wrap it up and jump off for now. We're going to stay in the studio. We're going to stay a little bit on edge here. We are expecting to hear from Chris McFarland at some point today. I'm expecting that will be a Zoom call. Once we get the official word that, hey, Chris McFarland is set to talk at this time, that's usually a good indication that the Avs are kind of done for the day. Again, I think the theme of free agency for the Avs this year is going to be Who can we find that maybe got priced out? Who can we pick up that are quality impact players that we can get maybe a little bit below their market value? I don't think the Avs are in the business of bargain bin shopping where they're looking for players that are kind of discarded, anything like that. But maybe guys who got squeezed by big money being given out. Yeah, let's see here. All right. Yeah. That's where I think the Avs are going to live this summer, is in the who out there, like Evan Rodriguez, thought they were going to get $4 million, and suddenly it's a month and a half later, and you're still hanging out. I just want to touch real quickly. Matt Dumba. He's a reclamation project that got north of $3 million on a multi-year deal. I'm just shocked by that. Clear step back last year for Matt Dumba. And for a team like the Dallas Stars, whose back end got worse by losing Brandon Tanev, that's an expensive deal for a guy that you're not sure fully how it's going to go. And if it doesn't go well, you're strapped to that for at least another year at 3.8. Look, I know analytic models aren't everything, but I'm looking at several different ones here. His projected value, based on what he actually does on the ice, not based on his reputation, not based on what he did 5 years ago in Minnesota, he's somewhere between a $1 million and a 1.4-ish at most $1 million player. To more than double that just seems like bad business. Riley Smith looks like he's on the move, being traded from the Pittsburgh Penguins to the New York Rangers. There's been a couple players that we've heard the Rangers miss out on today, so it looks like they are going to go the trade route to try to get what they need, bringing in Riley Smith. I like that ad for them. Quality player. And another one who was squeezed by Vegas last summer. Sidney Crosby, due for a new deal. Are the Pittsburgh Penguins going to are they going to do what the Washington Capitals are doing? Try to remain relevant and competitive to get your, to make sure that your superstars, your all-time great Sidney Crosby, doesn't have to ride off into the sunset on a team that's just getting their heads kicked in. Or are them doing things like moving on from Riley Smith? Is that an admission that they're saying, hey, maybe we're not that good, we need to start retooling? 1 year left on Riley Smith's $5 million per year deal. 40 points last year in just 76 games. Plays a key role on the defensive side of the puck as well. I think the New York Rangers are pushing. That could be a team that if they get a couple more pieces to fall in line, that could be a team that I think is a real contender. All right, well, we are going to jump out for right now. We're going to stay on edge for the rest of the day. If anything else big comes in, we'll be jumping right back on to make sure that we've got you guys covered. But for right now, we've been going for, in total, a little bit over 2 hours between the couple of shows. So we're gonna take a pause. We may be coming back, but I have a feeling the Avs are probably done for today, at least in terms of anything big and splashy. They get Jonathan Drouin done past the 11th hour, not just at the 11th hour. Jonathan Drouin had a chance to see what was out there in free agency, and they get it done. They bring Jonathan Drouin back. Real quick, a list just was released of the teams. Every player that every team has signed. Chicago Blackhawks leading the way so far. Tyler Bertuzzi, Alec Martinez, Laurent Brossoit, Teuvo Teravainen, Craig Smith, Pat Maroon, all getting deals with Chicago. And then I'll be honest, it says Anderson here. Oh, Joey Anderson. All right. So there's a lot of Andersons in the league. I wasn't quite sure which one that was. Joey Anderson, I missed that deal for them. Sorry, I did not see that one come through. There's a lot of, Edmonton has a few signings in, but those are a lot of depth guys. Let's see here. Utah, Cole Stenlund, Kevin Connaughton. Vancouver definitely making some waves. Jake DeBrusk, Oscar Forbert, Danton Heinen, Kiefer Sherwood. Toronto, I like what Toronto has done. Chris Tanev, they get Jacob Wohl re-signed. Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Ryan Murray, former Av, Stanley Cup champion, gets PTO. And Anthony Stolars gets signed there as well. All right, I'm being made aware that the terms are coming back the other way in terms of what was given up for Riley Smith. So it looks like Riley Smith going from the Pittsburgh Penguins to the New York Rangers in exchange for a second round and a fifth round pick. So it's just picks going back to the Pittsburgh Penguins, which just kind of reinforces what I was just saying of I think this may be something where we're going to have to keep an eye on Pittsburgh and what they are, how they're looking to construct this roster. Real quick, per Brendan McNicholas of the Colorado Avalanche, Jonathan Drouin set career highs in points with 56 and assists, 37 last season, ranking 4th on the Avs in both categories. He was 5th on the team in goals at 19, which I mentioned earlier was 2 shy of his career high. I'm really anxious to see what Jonathan Drouin is going to be able to do for the Avs this year. Still just 29 years old, and he's got a full year already under his belt with this organization. I think this could be another step forward type of year for Jonathan Drouin. All right, Jay, let's go ahead and get out of here for right now. We will have Guerrilla Football Denver coming up at 2 p.m. as Nate Jackson will be right back in this seat right here talking to you guys everything Broncos as the calendar's officially flipped over to July and we are in the month of Broncos training campus football season nears ever closer. But stay on the edge of your seats. If there's more big-time breaking news, we will be right back live right here for Guerrilla Sports. But an exciting, eventful morning for the Colorado Avalanche. They get Jonathan Drouin re-signed after the bell for free agency had rang to open 1 year, 2.5, a massive steal. The best value deal by a mile given out so far today in the NHL. Great bit of business for Jonathan Drouin and Chris McFarland. We get a team-friendly deal done. That's Jay back there running the board. Make sure you guys head over to the YouTube channel. Check out his video piece on Nathan MacKinnon and what made him a Hart Trophy winner this season. Appreciate all you guys. Over 2,000 of you guys hanging out right now on Free Agency Day. Absolutely love to see it. Thank you guys so much. You guys are why we do it. You guys are why we're here. That's Jay. I'm Jesse Montano. This is Guerrilla Sports. Thanks so much, guys. We'll talk to you soon.